Hello, everybody. Welcome back to an episode of Taking It Personally. I'm your host, Michelle Yampolsky-Gomez, and today we actually have a solo episode, and I'm really excited to be back. I hope you all had a really good week. I'm doing all right. We had a really interesting couple of days over here. My newest obsession for the last couple of weeks has really been purging and cleaning out my apartment and just making space for whatever else is coming my way. This really started with a flea market that I participated in. Have you ever done a flea market? The way I was selling water to a well was fucking incredible. I cleaned out my entire storage unit, literally pulled things that I thought of as junk and set them up at our local community flea market. I won't say where I live, but I do describe it as the world's largest cul-de-sac here in New York City. And so there is a biannual flea market that happens, and I decided to participate. Made a couple $100 off of cleaning out all of my closets, literally and figuratively, and was really proud of that. Just purging everything out, I highly, highly recommend it. And in this process, I also realized that I am stuck in 2020 mentally when it comes to what I'm wearing. So to backtrack a little bit, when the pandemic did kick in, my husband and I went down to Miami, like any good New Yorker does. We relocated to Miami for a couple of months, and we started doing that for a few years over the winter to escape the harsh winters of New York and just really enjoy remote work at the time. So a lot of my wardrobe has been purchased for summer, and I've almost been living in a continuous summer since doing this in Florida. So mentally, I realized that my wardrobe is fully stuck in 2020, and I am dressed like a pissed off wife in Ojai, California, who just realized that her husband's been cheating on her, and she decides to push him off a cliff in Big Little Lies or something, because I'm constantly wearing flowy button-up linen tops on top of leggings and my Birkenstocks, and it's been that way for the last 4 years. The purge has been helpful. Finally, I can get more on track with dressing for the times and trying to keep up with trends at least a little bit. At time of recording, it's the end of September. A few weeks ago was, I think, the one and only presidential debate scheduled between Harris and Trump before the November election, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. And I was eagerly awaiting a question from the debate moderators to ask the candidates if they had any upcoming plan to support families and family leave in this country, because the state that we're in when it comes to familial support is absolutely abysmal. Of course, this question was not asked to either candidate, and we're left wondering what's going to happen and if our rights are going to be, protected or expanded. This country treats women like dog shit. I'm not even going to touch into the issue of reproductive rights here, but I am going to focus on the concept of becoming a parent, because that is so highly relevant to me, and it is most current to me, and it is something that I have emotions and recent experience in. We need familial support in this country. I say this as a woman in a privileged position who has had help, who has support from grandparents, who has an incredible nanny, who was able to put her child into an incredible school program, and it's still not enough. So therefore, I know we are really in need in this country for a bit of a revolution of when it comes to supporting parents. Otherwise, we're not going to have a next generation that's healthy, fulfilled, or that's really what it comes down to. I am the daughter of two working parents who did have a similar setup as well. When I say similar setup, I mean that they had support from their parents, and they had the funds and ability to put me into great school programs and make sure that I was taken care of. But they worked all the time. They worked their butts off to give us an incredible life. I'm so appreciative for it. And now that I'm the adult going through it, I understand just what they sacrificed to do so. Why hasn't this changed in so many generations? Why is this just a welcomed thing amongst middle and lower classes of America? We are just in such a mind-boggling position. It truly scares me and overwhelms me. I truly hope that the next administration that goes into office in the U.S. is willing to work on a plan to improve the lives of parents and families in the United States. There are two really great Instagram accounts that I follow for these kinds of updates and this fight. One being Moms First US, and the other is Bobbie, Bobbie. Bobbie is the formula brand. Both of these accounts advocate in different ways for parents and parental treatment and family treatment. I can only hope that we make a change in the next 4 years. I am so open and curious on ideas to improve. I'll give you an example. Last summer, my husband and I took our daughter to Copenhagen on our Euro trip, a Euro trip that will actually never happen with her again until she is walking on her own and doesn't need a nap. That's a different story. We went to Copenhagen, and all the rumors that you hear about that place are fucking true. The support for families is monumental. It is amazing to see. Children are not shamed in public places. You can tell that parents are well rested. We found out that kids are going to daycare for like pennies on the dollar compared to what we're paying in the US. Everyone is happier, and that place is in darkness most of the year with the crazy ass winter. But these things add up and just make for a happier life. We are the richest country in the world. It really cannot be that difficult to pull off here in the US. I'm sorry, I just don't believe it. Let's be more like Copenhagen. Yes, there is a little bit of a Zyn nicotine pouch addiction going on in Copenhagen, but whatever. Like, everyone's really happy there. Let's just go for it already. I think that the current state of parental affairs in this country feeds into the cultural divide that we suffer from working moms, stay-at-home moms, and moms who are just making it happen in between. Everyone thinks that the other is worse than what they're doing, and it comes out in different ways, and it's bullshit. We should all be on the same side of things. If you're a parent who wants to work to support your family, go for it. If you're a parent who wants to stay home because you think that's a good fit for you right now, go for it. Both are amazing. Why are you judging the other? It's crazy out there, and I'm tired of it. I'm really rooting for the people who are trying to advocate for a change in these policy failures. And let's hope for the best, right? Because you'll get stuck one way or the other if we don't make a change in this country soon. You'll stay home and be a stay-at-home mom to be with your family. You'll be stuck there with the way things are going. You will slowly lose more and more opportunities to come back into the workforce. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I am saying that people will judge you for it. And if you're a working mom, you will also get stuck in that cycle, and you will miss out on things because we don't have support on family matters or flexibility to be with our families. That's all I'm saying on that end. Actually, I have plenty more to say. Who am I kidding? You know, when you have a baby, you do expect for your career to take a slight hit. Maybe you're going on maternity leave for a bit. You have to pass off some projects to other people. Maybe you have someone really catty at work who's been trying to come in and take from you a little bit and take your shine. You're ultimately missing out, no matter what. If you have a good maternity leave, you're taking some time off, and you should enjoy every second of it. But you should expect a bit of a slowdown. You should expect a slower ramp up as you return to office. But what I never expected was my maternity leave 2 years ago to impact my presence over in my fantasy football league. Shout out, girls. I see you. About 2 years ago, since I am coming up on the eve of my daughter's second birthday, I skipped a year of fantasy football after winning the year before. Thank you very much. Because I figured I'd be a little busy, birthing a child. Little did I know, the league continued on without me. Comes from the hose you least expected. You know what I mean? Shout out Big Mamas. This is our year. Gang, gang. We're going to get this. Everyone else, I see what you've done. I just finished reading a book. It's called The Karma of Success, Spiritual Strategies to Free Your Inner Genius by Liz Tran. And it was a really good read. I highly recommend for anyone who feels like they're kind of stuck in a rut. It is written by a woman who runs the meditation labs and yoga labs called Reset. Proposes a lot of really good techniques and theories on how and why you should focus on yourself to bring out your own inner genius. And a lot of this book relates back to following your intuition and trusting yourself. As I read through the book, I realized how little I had been trusting myself over the last few years, but I also, my hair is bumpy, but I also realized that I actually have started to gain that back a little bit as I've pursued stand-up, as I've taken classes, as I've even kicked off this podcast. Therapy has been great for that. But if you're someone who, like I have been in the past, has been swept away by other people's opinions, who maybe put a little too much value and thought into other people's opinions, I strongly, strongly recommend this book. We really do have our own intuition inside of us that should be able to guide us the right way. And we just need to learn to listen to that and trust that voice even more. Something I've always said to a lot of my friends is a woman's intuition is so strong and it's always right. I've had friends tell me stories about discovering cheating spouses or finding something they didn't want to see, or even, battles that they've had in the workplace or something, and their gut always told them something and it always turned out to be right. Trust that gut, but take it from this book more than you'll take it from me, because I just take things personally. What do I know? You know what I mean? The toughest lesson that I've taken from the book into my real life is about boundary setting, especially with people who you think are closer than they are. The hardest but best boundary I've ever set was when I realized that I had been putting too much value on some of my friendships that weren't valuing me the same way in return. So I had so many friends that I felt I would drop anything for, that I would be there for them, that I would volunteer if they needed a hand, that I was always there to listen if they needed something. In their times of need, I would rally around them and lift them up. And then I quickly realized, well, not quickly. I did not quickly realize, actually. I, over time, realized that it wasn't being returned. I had not been listening to my own intuition about so many people that I let into my life. I would let people in a little too easily. I do think that relates back to my wounded inner child. That's something that I've discovered through therapy. Just when you're a kid, especially being a girl in a U.S. middle school in the early 2000s with the creation of social media and AOL, I went through it. I really went through it. I would have a lot of battles with friends, a lot of fights. I would be kicked out of friend groups on the random occasion. I'd be left out. It wounded my inner child. And so now as an adult, I am learning and understanding and seeing that that inner child that was so hurt let in so many people who never had my best intentions in mind. I placed so much value on so many relationships. But when push comes to shove, or when push did come to shove or shaved, those people were not reciprocating that respect to me. That's the hardest lesson I've ever taught myself. I'm still learning it. I am still hurt by it. I'm doing the best I can. It is what it is. Speaking of friends, good friends, actual friends, I want to give a shout out to Stephanie and Milad, two of my listeners from the beginning. They just bought their first house after years of looking. I could not think of two people who deserve this more. They've been so dedicated and committed to this house hunt. I cannot wait for my room to be ready. I hope you're listening to this as you unpack. I love you guys, and I can't wait to see it and to celebrate. I also want to give a congratulations to another listener, my dear friend Nicole, who has been listening from the beginning and a supporter. She just got married this past weekend. A few friends and I from college were there. It was a stunning, perfect wedding. I love celebrating her love. She looked absolutely perfect. There is nothing more spectacular than celebrating a longtime friend at a life event. And what better friend to celebrate than the one who has stopped you from being the last person standing at Pasha, New York City at 7 a.m. in the 2010s. Thank you, Nicole. I appreciate you. You've always looked after me, whether it was Acapulco, God knows what happened there. Pasha, thank you for everything. So happy for you. Wishing you all the best. And something else that I've come to recognize about myself, unrelated to me reading this self-help book, The Karma of Success, is that I am a natural procrastinator. No doubt about it. There is absolutely no doubt about it. And I think that that directly relates to me hating the end of summer, because I don't like what the end of summer represents. That means getting back on track, no more silliness, actually having to behave, being on a routine, being structured, kind of like facing my problems. I mean, I feel like when I was growing up, every summer, the end of summer would roll around, I'd have bullshitted and saved all of my homework for the end of summer, or I owed something to school that I had to rush to do in the last week, and I just knew that it was going to be terrible. And that procrastination really sucks. I'm definitely trying to nip it in the bud, but it's weird how now the changing seasons represent that for me. Let me know if this makes sense. There's a strong chance that I'm rambling, and for that, I apologize. I'm on episode 5 of the podcast. This is going to be episode 5 that you're listening to. I wanted to take some time to reflect on the things that I've learned, since I am just having such an intellectual, self-reflective week. I read one self-help book and suddenly I'm just a guru. What can I tell you? So here are some things that I've learned since launching Taking It Personally 5 episodes ago. Number 1, you may think you're too old to do something like this, but in reflection, you're actually not, because now that you're older, your experience is a little bit better. You have more of a community who's willing to support you and be there for you through a lot of that. That's been cool. I really, really was hard on myself for not doing this earlier, but what would I have really talked about? I had no issues. I was partying like 4 nights of the week. I had nothing to contribute at that time. Another thing that I have learned is that I actually have a lot more support than I expected, and a lot of cheerleaders and people rooting for me. I thought it would be terrible. I thought people would be over it before it even started, and that's just not the reception that I got at all. This is not to be confused with what's the term that I'm looking for when you just like build yourself up on positive affirmations and good attention. I'm not saying this because I feed off of positive feedback. I don't really care what other people think, but it is really, really special and warm and nice when you have friends and members of your community reach out to you and just say, listen to the episode, it was fucking awesome, keep doing what you're doing. Or went to your show a couple of weeks ago, had a great time, so proud of you. Those things are great. On the flip side of that, though, you will find quote unquote friends or people in your community who are not going to acknowledge what you're doing. They're not going to support what you're doing, or they're going to be awkward or weird about it. It feels way bigger to you than it is to them. Try not to take it personally, but because that is my nature, I have been checking my list, checking it nice, taking notes. Be ready for me, bitches. People come out of the woodwork when you start creating your own platform. Now, let's be clear. I'm on episode 5, season 1. I know that I don't have a huge audience. I earn every single listen that I get, every single like. I don't take for granted, and I'm really appreciative. However, you will have people approach you if you start something like this, kind of out of the woodwork, with their own best intentions ready to go, without even listening to your podcast or what you say on it or attending your show. They'll offer themselves up as talent. I've had people slide into my DMs and just be like, when you're ready for a guest, let me know. Interesting. Have you listened to last week's episode? What do I usually talk about? What would you bring to the table? Why should I be opening up my platform to you if you can't even spare the 45 minutes a week to listen to my episode? You know what I'm saying? Fuck them. But at the same time, I guess, like, cool? I don't know. find your own life vest, lifeboat, life raft. Talking about it as if it's the fucking Titanic. It's not life or death. It's not life or death. The last thing that I've learned in the 5 episodes that I've done so far and the couple of shows that I performed in is that just because your feed on social may feel like it's oversaturated with what you're trying to do doesn't mean that that's what reality is. Social media is not reality. And for a long time, I hadn't worked this idea of starting taking it personally and try to figure out what I wanted to talk about. And I felt badly about it because in my head, I was like, there's so many podcasts out there and people probably have a podcast every other post that they flip through on their Instagram. Why should I be adding another one to it? You know what? It's not like that in reality. And you should just go for it anyway. Just because your feed looks one way, the algorithm does not look like that for everyone else. So just do it and don't be sorry about it. Something that I've done for myself in the last week, a fun activity for anyone who's just looking to reflect within, maybe do a little self-reflection, better yourself since fall is coming up. Go for it. Why not? I took a personality test. I used the 16 personalities free test. I took a personality test. I used the 16 personalities free personality test. Just Google it. You can find it. And I found it to be really all-encompassing, asked a lot of great questions. It did not take me long to fill it out, but I thought it would be valuable for me as I pursue all these new ventures. So my result is that I am what's called a campaigner. Here are some of the top descriptors and traits of a campaigner. 1, prefer being called weird. I'm not sure about this one. I don't know if I prefer to be called weird, but I have been. I don't think I really give a fuck, but I don't know if I prefer it. 2, have lots of hobbies. Correct. I feel like a failure if I'm not trying to learn something new or do something new. Live life like there's no tomorrow. I like this one. I am not sure that it's always me, but I think it's definitely something I value. So that's cool. Wear bright and colorful clothes. Now, this kind of goes back to what I was talking about at the beginning of the episode with my 2020 wardrobe being stuck in summer in 2020. Everything was bright and colorful. It was not working for my Manhattan life anymore. So now that fall is rolling through, I'm back in black, baby. I'm in dark colors. Not sure that this one applies. Lastly, believe anyone can be successful if they try hard enough. Into that. Been taught that my whole life. I think you have too. Let's do it. Other things I've loved the last week. Let's talk about the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City premiere. I'm not going to give you a recap. I'm not an analyst, but if you do want a really, really good recap or someone who provides really good, colorful commentary, Josh the Roni Stan. So that's Josh the RHONY Stan on TikTok. I think he's a genius. Everything he says is so on the nose. His analysis. His analysis is always so smart. I mean, he just adds such a smart twist to things on Bravo. He's on TikTok. I really recommend you checking him out. Absolutely love him. But that's not what I'm going to do today. I watched the premiere of Salt Lake City last week, like many Americans did. I absolutely loved it. The girls are back. I have been a lifelong Housewives fan since the original season 1 of Real Housewives of Orange County premiered in 2007, I want to say. I have always loved the look behind the gates. I've loved the fashion of these women. I've always wanted to see what their lives were like. I have always been intrigued by the anthropology of it all. That's what these shows have always spoken to me about. And in the last few years, I truly fell off of the wagon of Housewives because it wasn't showing me that anymore. It just wasn't a look at anyone's sociological or anthropological setting anymore. And it wasn't showing anything about families anymore. And even all of the quote unquote drama that was being delivered has been such a snooze and so overproduced. I don't even want to keep up. That's how I feel about New Jersey right now. Everything is just so overproduced. However, season 5 premiered last week, Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was so good. I thought that the women's true personalities were showing through. Also, love the fashion on it. Bronwyn, great new addition. She shows up in a massive furry heart dress thing. You can't replicate it. She's one of 3 people in the world who owns this piece. I think she said it was Yves Saint Laurent. The other person being Rihanna. This is what I want my housewives wearing. I don't want them in knockoffs. I want a rich housewife. I want to watch this level of wealth and enjoy it. And I think that, I'm not going to jinx it, but I am very optimistic that this season of Salt Lake City is going to deliver. We are riding the Salt Lake City wave, the Utah wave, the Mormon wave, if you will, because The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives on Hulu had just come out a few weeks ago. That was also a great look at everything. Obviously not as elite and wealthy as my housewife girlies, but I was absolutely fascinated in the family structures they were talking about, the friendships that they described, why they do the things they do. Hello, Mom Talk could not have been created anywhere else. I'm sorry. What other place in the country would something as ballsy and unapologetic but basic but scandalous as where else in the country could Mom Talk exist in that way? It could only be in a place where the houses look like that, the people look like that, and the culture encourages that. So I'm here for the Utah wave. I'm here for this. I am so intrigued by all of these people. And also, shout out to Swig. Mom Talk, the real Secret Lives of Sister Wives, whatever it was, brought swig and dirty sodas to the forefront of the conversation. I tried it when I was in Utah a few months ago. Absolutely loved it. Now, couldn't drink 44 ounces of it every morning. Can't do that. But it was an absolutely delicious treat. I am thrilled to announce that there is a store in New York City that is selling something similar, and I have plans to go very soon. It's called Cool Sips. They have a location in Rockefeller Center and Seaport, and I plan on going in the next few days. I will give my full report. When I went to Utah at the beginning of this summer, I tried a dirty Dr. Pepper. It was Diet Dr. Pepper, muddled raspberries, a little bit of vanilla, a splash of coconut cream in their smallest size. I almost passed out from the sugar intake, and I loved it. It was delicious. It was crisp. It was refreshing. The bubbles in that thing, stunning. Like, so crispy that it's the type of crisp that you take a sip, it wakes you up, you feel it all the way down to your gut. I have no regrets. No regrets. I'd do it again and again. Lastly, I'm going to leave you with a little bit of exciting news for me. Apparently, bubble hems are back, and I'm about 4 weeks late to this trend. But I saw in Bustle today that Zendaya was pictured out in New York in a beautiful bubble hem forest green dress. So cute. It looks exactly like something that and it's Louis Vuitton. Zendaya wore Louis Vuitton. All due respect to Louis, but it looks exactly like something that I found at Loehmann's in the early 2000s when I used to go shopping with my girlfriends on a hungover Saturday in my Jeep Liberty in high school. Toot, toot, toot. I'm so excited that the bubble hems are back. This gives me hope. Bubble hems are so forgiving on everybody. Next, we need to bring back empire waists and baby doll waists and the little drop dresses. We have a future here, people. If those two trends come back along with bubble hems, there is hope for the return of Loehmann's. Loehmann's, the shopping institution that is gone way too soon. It was a rite of passage. I miss Loehmann's every day. It was like Daffy's meets Saks Off Fifth meets Nordstrom Rack, but just so much better. none of these stores could ever replicate what Loehmann's did for us. Loehmann's was an American retail company which started in Brooklyn and grew to a chain of off-price department stores in the United States. The chain was best known for its quote-unquote back room, where women interested in fashion could find designer clothes at prices lower than department stores. Man, I would fucking tear up a Loehmann's. A suburban Loehmann's stood no chance against me. It's a tactic, it's a trait handed down from my grandmother to my mother to me. Off-price designer fashion. Talk about hobbies, baby. That's a learned familial trait. Leave it at that. I want to wrap up. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening today. This has been a fun little brain dump of everything going on. Before I go, please don't forget, I have a show coming up this Friday in New York City, September 27th, 7 p.m. at the Players Theater in West Village. If you can't make it, I also have a show Friday, November 8th, also at 7 p.m. Tickets are available at Reunion NYC on Instagram. Thanks so much for tuning in to Taking It Personally, and I'll see you soon.